Okay, you know the scene. You're on the floor, you're having a great time, and then it happens. Again, your baby picks up their favorite toy, makes that intense, direct eye contact with you, and just lets it go. Thud. You pick it up, you hand it back, and like clockwork, 2 seconds later, thud. It's Groundhog Day, but with a rattle. So let's get into what's really going on here.
Right, so we all ask the same question. Why? What is this? Is my baby glitching? Are they just trying to see how many times I'll bend over before my back gives out? Well, the truth is actually way more fascinating. What looks like a simple and, kind of annoying habit is really a front row seat to their brain development. We're calling this the repetition riddle. Because you get that feeling, right? After you've picked up the same squishy giraffe for the 12th time, you start to think, they're totally doing this on purpose. And you know what? You are absolutely right. They are. But maybe not for the reasons you think. To start cracking this case, you gotta look at what's happening inside their head. The first clue is understanding that your baby's brain is basically on a constant buffer. I mean, it is processing an unbelievable amount of new information every single second of the day.
Here's the best way to think about it. Imagine their brain is a super fast, top-of-the-line computer, but it's connected to some really slow dial-up internet. So that little pause you see, that blank stare they give right after the toy hits the floor, that's not them zoning out. Oh no, that's a massive data download in progress.
Yeah, there's actually a name for this. It's called the freeze response. When something new and sudden happens, like that clatter of a toy hitting the floor, their entire system just pauses. It has to shut down all other movement so it can divert every last bit of energy to figuring out what just happened. They're literally buffering the sound, the speed, the whole experience. So the sequence here is everything. First, the toy drops. Second, the baby freezes. They go totally still, right? And third, that's the moment their brain is working overtime, processing all that new sensory info. This isn't passive at all. It's some of the most intense, active learning they will ever do.
And get this, it goes even deeper. This freeze response is also a really old, primitive survival instinct. I mean, for a tiny human, the best way to observe something new and potentially scary is to become a statue and just watch. What you're witnessing is the very birth of their attention span. How cool is that?
But it gets even more complex. They aren't just observing the toy and how it falls. Let's move on to our next clue, because it turns out a huge part of this little experiment is you.
So here's where our perspectives totally differ. What you just see as a repetitive, silly game is, for them, a full-blown social experiment. While you're busy looking at the toy on the floor again, they are laser-focused on your face, trying to map your emotional response. Just imagine what's going through their head as they stare at you. They're asking all these silent questions. Okay, what did that face mean? Was that a smile? Is this game funny? Or, that was a sigh. Is this a serious thing? Your reaction, every single time, is teaching them the social rules of their new world. And all of this, the buffering, watching the toy, mapping your face, it all leads to our final and maybe biggest clue. It's time we start seeing our babies for what they really are. They're tiny scientists, and this is their very first, most important experiment.
The main scientific principle they are trying to master: cause and effect. This is a massive cognitive milestone. It's that fundamental click in their brain when they realize, hey, I can do something and it makes something else happen. Dropping things is the perfect way to test out this brand new superpower.
And think about the questions they're trying to answer. The first one is a biggie: gravity. Their inner monologue is probably something like, okay, if I open my hand, the toy goes down. Got it. But wait, will it do that every single time? What about now? And now? Is this a consistent rule of the universe?
And then, like any good scientist, they immediately start to change the variables. All right, so things always go down. Fine. But does this soft bear make the same thud as that hard plastic block? They are constantly comparing, contrasting, and building this incredible mental database of how physics works. Now here's a surprising little twist. Sometimes, this whole dropping game has nothing to do with physics or even you. It can actually be a self-soothing tool, like an emergency stop for their brain. When things are getting too loud or too busy, that simple, rhythmic, predictable action can help regulate their nervous system and stop a tantrum before it even starts. So when you pull all of these clues together, the verdict is pretty clear. This isn't a glitch, it isn't a test, and it's definitely not a meaningless habit. It is so much more than that.
If there's one thing you take away from this, let it be this: they aren't glitching, they are growing. Every repetitive drop is the sound of a healthy, curious, and very active mind that is hard at work. It's a critical, wonderful part of their development.
So to wrap it all up, the next time that toy hits the floor, try to remember what's really going on. Your baby is processing a massive data download about the laws of physics. They're mapping your face to learn the rules of being human. And they are conducting their very first science experiments to figure out how this brand new world of theirs actually works.
Really, this just proves that pretty much every weird thing a baby does is actually their secret language for learning. It's a little window into their process. Which leaves us with a question for you. What's that one weird thing your baby does that you want us to decode next?
Let us know. Stay curious.